Call Me Maybe Girl, the We Don't Even Have to Try, It's Always a Good Time Girl, Carly Rae Jepsen top 10 songs. Can you believe it? She kept making music after those two hits. What a concept. But it's a very much if you know, you know situation. If you are in the know of Carly's discography, and if you've been following her for however many years now, the past 10 years really, you'd know how good her music is. But there's a lot of people out there that would kind of just go, what? Carly? No, she got like one song. No. I'm here to tell you that if you are one of those people, check out her albums because she's got a lot of good music, and I'm here to celebrate that today. Put her music, her discography basically into a top 10 list. Of course, it's all just my opinion. If you have a differing opinion, please let me know in the comments. But do want to remind you that this was actually voted by Patreon supporters, so this is an opportunity for you to join over on there if you ever want to request your own videos and be a part of polls to get videos like this on the channel. Then please consider donating to me over on Patreon. She really has been one of the unsung heroes of pop music of the past 10 years for me. I think a lot of mainstream pop has taken a completely new and different direction, for better and for worse in a lot of ways. There's a lot of great pop music out there that's in the mainstream, but there's really a lot of bad stuff as well, and stuff that doesn't strike you or doesn't really have a particularly earwormy melody. That's one of the things that's kind of been lost in pop over the past 5 years, I'd say. It's really shifted into a new direction, and like I say, a lot of good stuff is existing, but Carly Rae Jepsen's kind of kept to that just unabashed, like straight up pop, pure pop stuff, and just kept it going. It is ear candy after ear candy after ear candy with every album. There's always so many good tracks on everything she puts out. I don't think every album she's put out is a massive hit or anything. I think she's dropped a few duds for sure, but there's always at least a few tracks from each one that I think have been pretty fantastic. And this list, I think, will very much showcase that, because the diversity of all of the albums she's put out just kind of combined together to make this list is pretty impressive. Some of these top 10 lists I've put out so far have been very much, you know, I guess biased maybe towards one album or two albums or something like that. The Kendrick Lamar top 10 list was very much like that, but I think the Carly one here is going to be a little different. So please let me know your thoughts. Enjoy the video, subscribe, and let's get into the honourable mentions. As usual, unless there's any outliers, we do go for 5 honourable mentions. So let's get my list and let's get on with it. Starting with 2 tracks from Dedicated. Now That I Found You and Real Love. Some of the highlights from this album for me. I'm not the biggest fan of Dedicated actually. I think it's decent. But yeah, I think it's quite sickly sweet at times, and I know that's very much the point of Carly, but I think she goes a little overboard, especially with some of the lyrics and some of the similes and metaphors that she throws out there that just go a bit too much for me. But these 2 tracks, Now That I Found You, Real Love, really are the highlights from the album in my opinion. I think they're fantastic pop songs. And yeah, they're the highlights. They are 2 honourable mentions so far for me. The third one I may as well keep to the Dedicated era, because she did do a side B, and the side B I always thought was better than Dedicated, once again proving that she's never beating the allegations of the B-sides are better than the main albums. And stay away from the Dedicated B-sides. For me, again, one of the highlights from that collection of tracks, and again, just a fantastic pop song all round. Then we're going to go to Emotion, of course, her most celebrated album, and one of the most acclaimed pop albums of the 2010s actually. Despite it not really having much of a mainstream pull, it is very much in that conversation for a lot of people who love pop music from the 2010s. And Boy Problems, a bit of an unexpected one actually. I think a lot of people would probably name quite a few more tracks on that album over this, but for me, I just think it's a really funny little silly track that she sells really well. I think the instrumentation is absolutely fantastic. Yeah, maybe not something that you'd see on any other people's list, I'm not too sure, but for me, I've always had a soft spot for Boy Problems. And then finally, my 5th honourable mention is a bit of an unexpected one too, actually, from her most recent album, but Collage, oof, love that track. Collage, I think, is just really showcasing a totally new side to Carly's music, and I think this album actually did a good job of kind of presenting some new sounds and new directions for Carly that I think she could expand on and really, really take forward with future music. And I think Collage was a really good track. It really sounds like something Kali Uchis would do. It's really slowed down. It sounds like Thundercats on production. Honestly, it's a great track, super underrated for me as well. And yeah, I'm just impressed with the direction she took it, because I think she could have easily started to paint herself into a corner. But The Loveliest Time, by proving with tracks like this, shows that she's actually expanding even to this day. Well into her career, she's now pushing her sounds, and it worked. Okay, at number 10, All That. Perhaps a song that might be a little low for some people. I know a lot of people consider this her best track. But back in the days where I was in my music discovery obsession days, which I still am in that mode, of course, I remember being shocked because I was like, this is a Call Me Maybe Girl, and Pitchfork are calling this the best new track. And I was like, okay, what's going on here? And I listened to it, I was like, I see the vision. I see the vision. I really do see the vision. This is a good song, and over the years, it's only grown on me more and more. I think it's, again, obviously a highlight on the album, and I think a lot of people may have this higher up on their own lists. But for me, yeah, I think it's great. I think the 80s sound is really, really good for her. I think she really, really like commits to it too. Like, it straight up sounds like something like something like from the sophisti-pop era in the 80s, you know? Like the Blue Nile or something like that would have been on the production, or something along those lines. But it sounds really stunning. It's really stripped back, and you just hear the delicacies in like her vocal melodies that I think, you know, she's a great singer. Like, she really is a bit of an underrated singer, actually. But I think tracks like this showcase how good of a singer she actually really is, because it just puts her at the front and center, and it's a really sultry, meditative track that I just absolutely adore. It's great. But it's like this, put you on the list, come downtown if you're around. When this track first came out, you would not have heard me saying this is in her top 10 best songs, but goddamn, this is one of the biggest growers of her whole discography. And I feel like I was wrong to underrate it when it first came out, because I thought it was a nice, decent pop tune, but goddamn, this track really creeps up on you. One of those weird, rare cases as well where the pre-chorus might even be better than the chorus itself. That little that really gets stuck in my head so much. And the chorus itself is really good as well, where she really yelps out, "Shama!" It sounds so good. But yeah, really, really love the verses and the melodies of this track. How it's structured, I think, is really great. That beat is fantastic. Yeah, one that I didn't quite realize initially, but has ultimately grown on me. Shy Boy is great. For anyone that knows me well will always know that Emotion Side B is the one I champion from Carly. Like, this is absolutely my ultimate favorite Carly Rae Jepsen project. It's just straight to the point, 8 tracks, no filler whatsoever, no room to mess up. And to kick off this whole thing is First Time, and oh my god, just such an instantaneous, like, get you woken up. That beat, the way she's commanding the stage with her vocal presence is fantastic. Truly one of the best performances of her career, this track. But yeah, once you get to that chorus as well, oh my god, it really, really hits. I mean, look, when she is on it and just is there to drop a really catchy melodic pop tune, she is truly on it. And this, for me, has to be in her top 10. If you want to, you can stay the night. At number 7, we have perhaps one of her funkiest tracks ever, The One. A great track, again, from Emotion Side B. Just truly rhythmic and instantaneously danceable. An absolutely fantastic track. I feel like those synth stabs are really good as well. They're like bomb, 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 bomb. It's just so really like booming, but at the same time really enjoyable as well. And the different vocal melodies she's throwing out too as well, when she drops that little "it's too much pressure" it's so catchy as well. Yeah, you know, I'm just going to keep repeating myself across this video, because when she nails the catchiness, it just gets stuck in your head for God knows how long. And yeah, I mean, lyrically, look, it's kind of repeating what we've heard her do before for sure, but it never really gets old. At number 6, we got Talking to Yourself, which I was really taken aback by when I first heard The Loneliest Time, a track that for me just really kind of swept the album totally. Like, it was the one track that just every time I was just completely hooked by. I know the title track as well is really good and had a bit of a TikTok moment, and that honestly could have made it onto this list too. I'm sure it would make other people's lists, but this was just that one track that each time just felt like it was an absolute instantaneous sugar rush. And it is just super anthemic as well. When you get to that chorus, she really reaches some insane notes that just make the song just feel so huge and arena sized. Yeah, I absolutely love this one. At number 5 now, and again, maybe a song that people might have a little higher on their own personal lists, but top 5 is no disrespect at all. Cut to the Feeling, the Lucy single of her career that just seems to be considered one of her best tracks despite it never making it onto an album. Although I think it's pretty clear that this track probably was written around the Emotion era, given the fact that she says emotion on the song. I mean, it just seems really obvious, but still, it feels like its own separate thing at the same time. It just feels like a standout hit because of how, again, super anthemic and just lively the song is. The chorus just is an absolute burst of excitement when it kicks off. It is just a really, really like wow moment. And yeah, just pop perfection done to its finest. I mean, this entire top 5 really is just pop at its best. If you want just perfect pop music just for in that moment, a track to just keep you going, really, really lighten your mood as well, this is the song. Okay, this is very high up on the list. At number 4, we have the Psychedelic Switch, which is a track that came out from an album only this year. And I don't think I'm giving this any recency bias. I don't think I'm overrating it. I don't think I'm overhyping it. For me, this will remain one of her best songs ever, because Psychedelic Switch feels like one of the most unique things she has ever done in her career. I was saying already about how The Loveliest Time does kind of dive into newer sounds, dive into newer ideas, and this track here really shows where she could take her music now, because that house influence, having a bit more of an energized beat to kind of carry the song, I think works so perfectly for her. This song is just so bloody good, and it's only come out this year. This is easily one of the best tracks of 2023 as well, and I want to hear her do more stuff like this in the future, because I think she absolutely nailed it. It's so blissful as well. Like, it's such a lovely listen, but it also makes you feel like you just want to get up and dance. She absolutely nailed it in that kind of similar way to something like DJ Sabrina would do, although maybe not quite on some of the tracks that DJ Sabrina's put out, because DJ Sabrina just has this way of creating this atmosphere that no one else really can create. But it has a similar kind of feel of that blissful, euphoric energy to it that I think is really hard to replicate. And I just want to hear her do more stuff like this again, because this is truly one of her best songs. I've been all alone on my own. At number 3 now, one of the smoothest songs of her entire career, Julian. I just think this track is just really, really immaculately produced. It feels so like calm, and just it has like a really nice feeling whenever you hear it. It just is so smooth the whole way through. The production is just on point. Her vocals are so heavenly on this track as well, and again has that effect of where those like pre-chorus vocals are just super melodic, and then when she gets to the chorus, it's just so satisfying as well. The bridge as well on this track is absolutely gorgeous. Like, what a song. For me, this has to be in her top 3. In your At number 2 now, Emotion, the title track from her acclaimed album Maybe a little underrated because I don't really see people talk about this song as being one of her best that often. But for me, it's easily one of her best. Are you kidding? Oh my days. What a track this is. Just pure Carly Rae Jepsen at her best, essentially. It is just everything you'd expect from her. It's just a fantastic, super sing-along chorus. It's nailed that. It's got the really typical Carly Rae Jepsen type lyrics, that kind of hopeless romanticism type stuff that she's always kind of, you know, really just nailed throughout her career. Like every track, every album just has that hopeless romantic feeling across all of them. But yeah, it's an absolute stunner of a track, and I'm not entirely sure what instrument it is, but it kind of has like this kettle drum feel to it, with that do 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 do, which was a pretty popular thing at the time. I think she was probably trying to channel that vibe that a lot of like pop songs were starting to introduce in a lot of their tracks, and I think she was trying to channel that a little bit on this track, but it really works perfectly for it. But just an absolute sing-along anthemic track that for me has to be in her top 2 tracks. But of course, there is one more song that I think is better. Look, I've said it before in previous videos if you've watched any of my other top 10s. Sometimes it's just going to be the obvious song that ends up being my favourite. Sometimes it won't be, but on this particular occasion, I can't not say that Runaway With Me isn't her best track, because it just is, man. Truly one of the best pop songs of the 2010s. One of the most snubbed songs of the 2010s, and maybe even of all time as well, and not even just by general music audiences. I think this was snubbed by the team that were behind this album, because I don't know how you create an album like this and think that this isn't the lead single. This should have been one of the biggest hits of 2015, and for all we know, there's a parallel universe where they decided to make this the lead single, and it was the biggest hit of 2015, because it just has all the makings of that. And yeah, just one of the most euphoric, beautiful, most simply written songs, honestly, ever. Like I've said this before about Kylie Minogue with tracks like Love at First Sight, which is just another perfect pop song for sure. And the simplicity is what works in its favour. And this track has that in spades as well. Like, it doesn't feel like it's doing anything you haven't heard before, but it's just doing it so perfectly. And the writing just feels so beautiful. It just feels so earnest. And again, has that hopeless romanticism element to it as well, that she just nails every single time that she attempts to do it. But it's just basically the best version of herself that carried this track. An absolute wonderful song, perfectly produced, perfectly performed, has a perfect atmosphere to it as well. It's stunning. Yeah, this for me is Carly Rae Jepsen's best song ever. So I'm certainly not telling you something that you didn't already know with that number 1, but hopefully you got something out of this video. I think there are some other interesting picks in this top 10 that you might not have expected or seen coming, and maybe in the comments you can let me know what your top 10 would be as well, especially if you're a big super fan of hers. You might look at this list and think, oh my god, what is this guy talking about? You missed out this song, you missed out that song. Well, please let me know. Of course, this is all subjective. It's just my opinion, what I would go for as her best songs. And I really hope you enjoyed the video. Thank you to the Patreon supporters who voted on the poll and also decided that this was going to be the next top 10 songs video. You should check out my Patreon and maybe consider supporting me on there, because you get to be part of this in the future as well. And yeah, as always, subscribe, have a good day, like the video, share it around, and goodbye.